we are going to do oil system layout. Again, this is just a basic layout. It's not what you will find on the aircraft, but we are going to do the system which is as similar to CJ610 engine. Okay, these are the type of the engine which are installed onto the Learjet aircraft. So first component in any oil system should be the oil tank. So this is the oil tank. I'm not drawing all other things, that is there is a side gauge, there is a dipstick indicator. You should understand this is a oil tank. After the oil tank, the oil goes into the pressure pump. Okay? So the oil goes into what? Pressure pump. I'm writing here PP as a pressure pump. Okay. This part here is a scavenger pump. Okay, we'll come to the scavenger part later. Just understand, oil comes over here and oil is going into what? Pressure pump. Pressure pump is the same type of a gear pump which we studied. Okay, it creates the pressure of the fluid. After the pressure pump, the oil will go into the oil filter, very much required. Okay, because pump is the part which is rotating. So when it rotates, what it will create is it will create a lot of wear and tear will happen. So if lot of wear and tear is happening, what happens is there can be a contamination. So to remove the contamination, we have got the oil filter, and just to ensure that that the oil filter is properly working, we have got a small bypass valve. So I'm showing it like this here. This is what? Bypass valve. So bypass valve ensures that there is always a supply of the oil even if the filter is clogged. After this, the next component that will come is called as the FCOC, fuel cooled oil cooler. We also studied this in the fuel system in the previous class. So what happens is the oil will come over here, it goes into the FCOC, it is rotating around the fuel, fuel is passing into the tube. This is a DGCA question. What passes into the tube? What passes surrounding the tube? So inside the tube there is a fuel passing, surrounding the tube there is the oil passing. Heat exchange will take place. And what will happen is this oil will become cool oil, which means what? That this tank is the hot tank. Hot tank means what? The oil is stored in the tank which is having a elevated temperature. That means after it passes to the engine compartment, that is bearing compartment, where it has gone to the lubricate, its temperature has increased. And that same high temperature liquid is directly stored into the oil tank. We are not cooling it first. What we are doing is we are directly passing it into the oil tank. Such a type of the oil tank is called as a hot oil tank. So this is a hot tank. So after the filter, it comes into the FCOC where it will get cooled. Now this cool oil comes and get divided into different branches. Let us say 1, 2. We'll just draw 4 branches. There are actually 5 branches, but I'm just drawing 4 branches. Okay, for understanding purpose. The first branch is the number 1 bearing. Okay, this is number 2 bearing, number 3 bearing. So all the bearings are lubricated, as well as accessory gearbox has to be lubricated. Okay. So the oil will go into the places where you have to do the lubrication, which include accessory gearbox, number 1 bearing, number 2 bearing, and number 3 bearing. Understood better? And after this, just to ensure that the oil is being supplied further, we have to ensure that the oil goes into what? Scavenger pumps. So see, there are 4 scavenger pumps. Understood here? There are 4 scavenger pumps which I have shown into this picture. It goes into the scavenger pump. You can install a filter over here if you require, or you can have a filter after all the scavenger pump outlets are here. We can have a filter in each one of them, or what you can do is you can join all the lines together and have a single filter. Okay, that is also up to you. And then what will happen is all the oil will come back and go into a non single line, and then this single line will take the oil back into what? Oil tank. And also this is the basic oil system. So what is happening over here is oil is stored into the oil tank. From the oil tank, the oil will come under the pressure. Oil will come over here and will enter the pressure pump. Function of the pressure pump is to create the pressure. It creates the high pressure and passes the liquid further. Since there can be a wear and tear in the pressure pump, what will happen is the components are rubbing against each other inside a pressure pump. There can be a wear and tear. This wear and tear can put minute particles in the oil which can damage the components into the downline. So to prevent this damage, what I have to do is I have to ensure that I pass it to the oil filter. So the filtered oil will go into the FCOC. If the oil filter has to be protected, okay, that means if it gets clogged, I still require the oil to go further down the line. So for that reason, I have ensured that there is a bypass valve. After this, there is an FCOC. FCOC is the fuel cooled oil cooler, which ensures that the using the fuel, I will cool the oil. That means what? If FCOC is here before the bearing compartment, if FCOC is before the bearing compartment, that means the type of tank inside the oil system is a hot oil tank. Then what happens is FCOC will supply pressure will go over here. From here, the pressure will enter into the accessory gearbox bearing. Since there are three bearings, so three bearing compartment. Each of them will have their own separate pump to take them out. So these are the scavenger pump, and each of them has a filter. And from this, the oil is collected into the normal manifold, and from that manifold, it is passed back into the oil tank. Now see what are things extra have to be added. This FCOC can also have a bypass valve. Okay, what this bypass valve will ensure that whenever the temperature of the oil is below the temperature specified, okay, if the already cool oil is coming over here, what this means is if the already cool oil is coming over here, it will not allow it to pass through FCOC to further cool it. Okay, if the temperature is less, it will not pass through, it will not allow the oil to go through FCOC. It will bypass. So it is called as the thermostat bypass valve in that case. Okay, I have just marked here bypass valve, but just understand that it is a thermostat bypass valve. That means the temperature is the one which is taking the thing into consideration. Also, if suppose my FCOC is faulty, I will have another bypass valve which ensures that the oil is further passed. Understood? So there are two types of bypass valve at FCOC. One is the temperature regulated. Another one is if the FCOC is faulty or kind of there is a damage into the FCOC, this bypass valve will open and allow the fuel to go into the further line. Okay. Next thing, what I told you is there should be the air pressure here in the oil tank. 5 psi pressure bataya tha na beta. So what the manufacturer will do is that he will ensure that the same pressure, okay, same pressure is available in your bearing compartments. This is air pressure we are talking about, okay. Same pressure is available in your all bearing compartment. This is called as a breather system. We just studied in the bearing compartment that the pressure port is there from where the pressurized air is coming. This is the breather port. Pressurized air is coming. And same pressure is also available into the oil tank. So there should be the same pressure, then only the oil will go further. If there is a difference in the pressure, oil will not go further. That completes your basic oil layout. Now, just to make a variation over here, suppose I don't want my FCOC, I don't want my oil tank to be a hot oil tank. So what I will have to do is I will have to just do one single adjustment. What is that single adjustment, beta? I will remove FCOC from here. Okay, so it's obvious that if I remove the FCOC from here, these components are also removed from here. Okay, they will not be here then. Okay, so what I should do is I should install the FCOC here, and if FCOC is here, the bypass valves are also here. Understood? When I do this, this will become a cold oil tank, because now the oil which is coming after the lubrication, because this will be the hot oil is being cooled down and it is passed into the oil tank. That's the only variation we'll do. Okay, let us start now. The component is CJ610 oil system, completely oil system. This is the engine of this. This is the oil tank. So in the oil tank, oil will be stored. From here, high pressure, this is the hot oil tank as I've already told you. Oil will come over here. From here, it is going into what? Pressure pump, P1's pressure pump. Okay. This pressure pump will create a high pressure. This high pressure liquid will come out from here. You can see there are two outlets. One is going on the right hand side, another one is going on the left hand side. Left hand side is basically a pressure relief valve. We just saw it in the previous diagram also, that in the gear type pump there is always a pressure relief valve because it's a positive displacement pump. So if on the downline there is a high pressure, that high pressure has to be relieved. Hence we have got a pressure relief. Then what will happen is this pressure will pass into the oil cooler. Oil cooler means FCOC. Okay, if FCOC is not working properly, if there is some problem in the FCOC, we have got a bypass valve, which ensures that the oil is always present in the further line. Then it is going into what? Oil filter. Again, see, you can see there is a bypass valve with the oil filter gets clogged. From here, the oil will come over here. This is the line which we are tracing. Oil is coming here, and then it first divided into the two sections. First, it will go into the accessory gearbox. Second section it comes, it divides again into two parts. For next one is the transfer gearbox. In this engine, there are two types of gearbox: accessory gearbox and the transfer gearbox. So first it went into the accessory gearbox. Second jet, this is the jet. Second oil jet brought it into the transfer gearbox, and then this line comes, divides into three parts: number one bearing, number two bearing, number three bearing. These bearings are similar to the bearing compartment as we have done in the previous class. ओके तो वहां पर बेरिंग कंपार्टमेंट में जाएगा बेटा, उसको लुब्रिकेट करेगा. एंड दिस लाइन, कैन यू सी दिस लाइन connected to the scavenger pump, this second one, scavenger pump. From the transfer gearbox, this line. From the number two bearing compartment, this line. Number three bearing compartment, this. So there are five scavenger pumps because there are five bearing compartments to be lubricated. From each of them, we are bringing the oil into the pump. You can have a filter or you don't have a filter, that is up to the manufacturer, but basically there should be a filter which is not shown in the diagram. Then what happens is this supply gets collected and gets supplied back into the oil tank. This dotted line over here is showing that there is a breather pressure available. As I've already taught you what is the breather pressure work. So this is the breather pressure available. That is how the oil system of the CJ610 engine works. That completes this